Alright, so what is up guys? In the previous session we learned about what is local script and the difference between local script and a normal script. So in this session we are going to be understanding about an instance called as weld constraint. So by the name itself you can say that is something related to welding, which is true. So in this workspace I'll be putting two parts and I'll be just creating like this. Let me just place it a little bit up. And the first part I'll be naming it as part A, whereas the second part I'll be naming it as part B. Let me just rename it. And in most of the games you won't find a lot of parts like this in the workspace. So what game developers they generally do is that they put both of these parts inside of a model, and you can think model as a folder, but the difference between a model and a folder is that the model treats all of these parts as a one thing. So this whole thing is like one object. So take an example of a chair. It has like four stands in the bottom, and then there's a seat, and then there's some frame for the back. So if you add all of these together you get a chair, right? So that's the same thing with this model. So we can let's say for example this is a house, okay, and then this house has two parts. It's made up of two parts, which is part A and part B. So I can just move this around together like this. I don't have to select both of these parts because this whole thing comes under one model, so you can just move it around like this. So in this session we're going to be understanding about weld constraint. In this I'll be clicking this plus, and yeah, weld constraint, it welds two parts together. You can't weld multiple parts at once. You can only weld one part to another part only once, okay? So here we get, in the property section of the weld constraint, we get two things here, which is called as part 0 and part 1. So part 0 is actually the part which you're going to weld it to, okay, and part 1 is the other part. So basically if I were to click on this box, it will change my cursor and it allows me to select any instance inside of the workspace. Note that you can't put, I don't think so you can select anything else apart from a model, mesh part, or part, something like that, or a base part. But yeah, just check it out. So you have to select on the part which you want to weld. So this part 0 goes to part A, and for part 1 I'll be selecting part B. So after welding, if you weld it correctly, you should get two things like this: a green line from part A to part B. So the reason why we are welding this is because, let's say my house is really high in the sky, and if I were to run this game, due to gravity the house is supposed to fall down, okay? So if I were to run this, you can see here that both of these parts, they fall together. Let me run it once again. So let's say I move the position of this part to maybe here, okay, and if I select this whole house, I'll put it a little bit higher over here, and let me just change the color of this part to maybe green and change the material to neon so we can see it more clearly. And if I were to run this, both of these parts fall, and no matter how, if you change this the position of these parts from a script, both of these parts will be at the same distance. So that is what the weld constraint does, is that it fixes this part and this part, the distance between each other, it's like fixed, okay? The rotation, everything is fixed. So no matter what you do, you move this around, or if I just select this, move it up like this, so the whole thing goes down. If I were to only select A, yeah, so you can see that it moves a little bit like this. So the reason why it moves is because every time the position of this part changes, even that part changes, but the distance between each other will be the same, okay? So if I move this, let me move this a little bit higher, yeah, so even that changes. So basically if either of the part A or part B moves, the other part moves if they are welded to each other. So that was basically about weld constraint, and it's an instance, so kindly have a good understanding of this instance, because you might need it for your building or when you're creating like a lot of parts in your games, such as buildings, guns, stuff like that. So if you guys have any doubts, queries, or whatsoever, kindly comment down. Until then, stay safe. Bye bye.